everybody. Welcome to the PodOwwll Show. I am the PodOwwll. I am with Brian, and Brian also works on the Owl Podcast, more behind the scenes. And we called each other up on the Owl app, and we chopped it up for about a half hour or so, and had a bunch of laughs and a bunch of tech talk. So we was like, you know what? Let's just do a live podcast, and we can talk about it. So, Brian, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I got my Pepsi. I got my Caesar salad with shrimp. I don't know if you can see it. I got a pizza coming, man. I'm in Hollywood, living large at the Michelli's restaurant. As you can see, they've been open since 1949. So this is where I do my podcast. They sponsor my show. So I always like to give a little bit of a product placement plug.
Yeah.
So life is good.
Good,
How
good,
about
good.
you? How you doing?
Doing well. I got myself kind of settled into here in my little nook that I got going on, and I had a little bite to eat when I got home, and just been answering some emails and stuff like that, and looking forward to the show.
Awesome. So we had a lot of fun last time, just kind of chopping it up, doing some shop talk.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, what you do and, your involvement with the OWL app. And so before we get into going too deep into the podcast stuff, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and how are you liking the OWL app so far?
I love the All app. Initially I signed up for it thinking, it'd be great for networking. It would be great for, kind of spreading my business around. And, the more I got into it, the more I started to create relationships, friendships. And I'm finding that as way more of a benefit than anything, you know. I can, call up my friends there and we can talk about things. Um, I talk with Eric Allen quite a bit, and we go back and forth. I do some of his work, and he's such a and everyone that I meet, there's such a positive, just a positive influence, just a positive environment to be around, and uh, and I'm finding that to be like the number one thing that I really that I really look forward to each day. I put myself live almost all day, every day. I have a day job, so while I'm at work, I put myself on live, and I'll get two, three, four calls, a day or whatever, and I just look forward to that interaction.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm finding the same thing. There's like, there's some of my favorites that when I see them on, I'll definitely call them. And I try to get on at least 4 hours a day. I can't get on all day, a lot of times because of my work is a little bit more demanding of my attention.
Sure.
And sometimes I can multitask and I can be editing in the background while I'm talking to somebody. Other times I need the brain power to focus on what's in front of me. But I try to get on as often as I can. And when I see somebody who's one of my favorites, I always dive in and chop it up with them a little bit. And it's true. It's become more of a community, a network, some personal advisors, even if it's just somebody that you just want to just off gas a little, a little mind dump. It's cool for that too. I find that is very helpful for myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree.
So we were talking about doing podcasting the last time we talked, and as you can see, I'm in the process of putting together my whole system. I got my mixer, laptop, I
Oh,
got
yeah.
wireless mics, I got my phone here on my Kimbro rig tripod. Um, I've got a little portable lighting system and my headphones. So I didn't really get a chance to put all that stuff together for this show. But I find that, you know, for me, I like to experiment with multiple setups and configurations. I call them Kimbrough rigs because
Nice.
it's I have so many different devices between my phone and PTZs and iPads and computers and laptops. You know,
Sure.
you always have to figure out a configuration to make it work. If you've got multiple people on your show, you got to make sure you have additional cameras. Sometimes I'll use their phones to be an additional camera.
Yeah.
And you always got to be creative and hooking it up. And then you need the right couplers, your minis with your quarters and your XLRs and your Firewires.
Speaking
And
my language.
HDMIs and DVI. It's just like, it never fails.
Yep.
Somebody always comes through, is like, hey, I want to bring my laptop. Can I tap into the show? And you're like, yeah, sure. And they'll pull out this ancient, 1994 Windows with the DVI, HDMI. You're like, what is this? They're like, do you have a VGA coupler? I'm like, who are you, Fred Flintstone?
Yeah, for sure.
But,
Well, I carry a backpack pretty much everywhere I go, and in that backpack has almost every little adapter for this and dongle for that, and connect this to this and that to that, and I've run into so many things myself, and I just keep everything in my backpack. There's a pocket that's like the pocket of plenty. There's everything's in this pocket, and it's so helpful for all kinds of situations. So yeah.
That's what I have. I have the same thing. But once you get the digital handshake going, then I like what you were saying, how you were kind of helping your client or your producers organize their shows. Share with me a little bit about some of your strategies in helping the client organize themselves before they get to you, the podcast engineer, where you're pushing the buttons and plugging in the mics and all the devices and making sure the digital handshakes and the Kimbrough rig works.
Yeah.
What's some of the advice you give to your producers to be organized so that when they come to you, they're pretty ready, so that all you have to do is just fire up the lights, cameras, and mics, and you're good to go?
Yeah, well, basically, I walk the host or the client. I walk them through setup from ground floor all the way up to on and running. Now, that could mean hardware, that could mean software, that could mean all of the things. A few of my clients actually record right onto Riverside, whether they are interviewing someone or not.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I make sure that they have, their good connections with their internet and all that stuff, and then with their mic as well, and the good sound, the good video, that all transfers into good content that comes out, where that's where I come in. They give me all that raw footage and all that raw audio, and I take that and I fix it all up and package it up into a good package for them with the long form audio podcast, long form video podcast, and a whole bunch of social media clips as well. And that one package just goes right to them for them to throw on their socials, on YouTube, on their audio podcast, all that kind of stuff. What I kind of do is I give them it's a checklist. It's like a PDF checklist, like, just start with number one, work your way right down the checklist. And if you stopped at something, you don't have something's not working, call me, give me a call, give me a text, whatever it is, a DM, whatever it is, and say, hey, Brian, I'm stuck at this one. How do I do this? And I can kind of troubleshoot on the fly with them to kind of figure out how to get past that step in the process of getting all set up. And then once they hit record, it's on them. They just go. And I coach them to on, some people can just open up the mic and just start talking, and they're just good at that. The gift to gab. Some people need bullet points, to go by to kind of get them through their thought process of the show. And then, some people need all out scripts, I'm not much of a fan of the all out scripts because it's too polished, or it's too thought out, you know. Sometimes our best material comes just off the cuff, just right out of our mind, just that mental dump sometimes,
Mhm.
and it's better to just kind of, in my opinion, it's better to just kind of lay it all out there, whatever it is. And then, when that raw stuff comes to me, then I'm able to make some sense of it. Sometimes, a couple of my clients, they'll just kind of go way off on a tangent, you know,
Right.
and okay, we got to reel this back in. One of my clients is really good at going off on a tangent, and then he'll come back to what he was saying, and I take that whole tangent out, and we'll save that for later. We'll do that,
Right.
so, and then I just put that sentence right together, like nobody even heard, what he was talking about, that whole
Right.
side thing. So a lot of that stuff kind of happens in post production, but in pre production also, it's good to get yourself organized. I have a couple of Google Sheets, Google spreadsheets that help organize, their projects that they're on, and the where they are in their project, notes on their project, all that kind of stuff. And then even in post production, I have another sheet that lists, okay, here's where the raw footage is, this is the link, and now here's the finished product, here's the link to the finished product, and all the dates and descriptions. And it's just good to stay organized, and especially there's, one of my clients, I love him to death. He's a brother from another mother, he really is. And but we get to go into talking, and this guy, we get off on this tangent, and I completely forgot what we talked about over here, so I put an idea tracking sheet together for him, that, the heading, and you click on that, and it goes to the document. It's got all the notes on the document, and all that, and that just helps him kind of stay organized and up to date with what he's doing, so that he doesn't forget where he's at, and then I can kind of check on how things are going too. So using those Google tools like that are well, it's free, first of all, it's free, but they're so powerful to keep yourself organized on so many different levels.
That is so awesome. I would love to get my hands on those, on your cheat sheets, just so I can kind of see what you're doing, how you're doing it, and it might be
Sure,
something that I can apply to my show. You
sure.
still have my email, right?
I sure do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you could, man, that would be awesome. Send me those cheat sheets, and I'll take a look at them and see if maybe I can, grab some ideas off of there for my show. That would be awesome.
Sure.
I like what you said about um, keeping it kind of a loose outline. When I write my stand-up comedy, I'll write everything out verbatim, including notes and instructions on how to say certain words and how to set up certain premises and punchlines. But then once I got it all down, when I put my chuck list together, I'll just take one word
Yeah.
that reminds me of the whole bit, and I'll just do a chuck list of just a single word. And that lets me know, okay, this
Yep.
is the bit, and I can go
That's
into
the
that.
cue. Yeah.
That's the cue, yeah. I
Yeah.
take that same approach when I do my podcast. Like,
Okay.
I do an outline. The outline will just be like a key word, and that
Okay.
word will remind me of exactly what that segment is all about. And then
Okay.
I'm flexible to be spontaneous and improvisational. And there are some
Yes.
really key moments that happen if you don't have a script, so you don't have to go off script when you find those hot moments. And,
Yes.
uh,
Exactly.
and it's also, if your guest happens to spin off because you got your outline, you can wheel them back in pretty seamlessly, and
Yeah.
it makes for a nice flow.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. It's like I was saying, some people can just roll with it, but it's good to have a little bit of that structure, to come back to when things get off the rails a little bit. Have that little bit of structure to go by, and that keeps those thoughts are in that episode. Sometimes you'll have other thoughts. Well, that's okay, but that's good for another episode, you know. keep your structure there so that you can kind of capsulize that in that episode, and then move on to the next one if you want.
What's your take on how many episodes you should do in a day? Um, is it based on talent fatigue or energy? Is it based on the logistics of putting shows together, how organized you are? What's your take on doing one-offs or come in for the whole day? We'll put six in the can, and as long as you got the voice and the energy, we'll just keep it flying.
Yeah,
What's your take on that?
that's definitely a factor. If you have the endurance to do it, you have the voice to do it, the endurance to do it, the energy, like you were saying, you get into, say you're going to record 3 on a Saturday morning or something, right? And you get up and you get yourself ready for the day, you have your coffee, whatever, and you get into your first episode and you're just fired up. By your third episode, if you're dragging feet, just cut it. It's probably not a good idea to force that, because your listeners will pick up on that. If they are used to a certain level of energy from you, they'll definitely pick up on when you are dragging feet or just not into it. So that's that's the performance side of it. My opinion, especially if you are a hobby podcaster and you don't have a set up studio or a space that you have set aside for this sort of thing, you have to set your equipment up every time. If you're going to set it up for one, you might as well set it up for 2, 3, 4, whatever you can do, especially if you can really get into like a zone, where you've got your episodes all lined out and you can just bang, 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 one after the other, and really get them knocked out with that same energy, you know, and then you're good for the month or the next 2 weeks or whatever it might be, versus panicking on, you drop on Monday mornings while you're recording, Sunday night, and then you have to edit it, or you send it to your editor like me, and I'm panicking trying to get it all edited before the drop the next day. you know Give yourself some squish room, give yourself some wiggle room. Record, like you said, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is at a time, get them in the can, and then that gives everybody involved that relaxation to focus on what they're doing. Like me as an editor, uh, I do good with deadlines, right? But I do even better. I can get really picky on my edits and just make them just pristine edits. Sometimes when you're up against the wall, you got to let stuff slide. And I'd rather not let stuff slide. I'd rather put my attention into it and then deliver it a nice finished polished product, and then everybody's happy.
Wow, that's cool. We got singing waiters here. That's what's cool about this place. Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on in the background. Yeah, I don't know if
Nice.
you can see that, but
Yep, that's fantastic.
I love this place, man. It's so cool. What's your take on like having show title, show opener, credits, or do you just like go right into it and then it ends, and then maybe it's a verbal or audio list of credits? Like, what's your take on show openers, show closers?
So typically what happens is, the client will record their podcast, okay, and then they have their opening music, theme, whatever, and they send all that to me. What I like to do is go through the episode and find that 10-second or 20-second or 9-second or whatever, that little sound bite that opens the show. That's the nuts and bolts of the show right there. That first little bit, that's the hook. Much like social media, we talk about the first 3 to 5 seconds. Man, if you don't have them hooked within the first 3 to 5 seconds, you've completely lost them.
Right.
Kind of the same thing with podcasting. If you can hook the listener early on like that, with that sound bite that's, it's funny or engaging or polarizing or galvanizing or insulting, even, offensive, whatever it might be, to say, oh, wait a minute, what did he say? I got to listen to this. What's going on in this episode? So typically I like to start with that thing is what starts out the episode. You go into your theme, you come back out of it, and what happens then is you build that episode back up to where that statement is made, and then after that statement is some sort of resolution, it's finished itself, like the whole thought has finished itself off, and then that's, a nice packaged podcast.
That's cool, man.
Caught you with a mouthful.
Brought me with a mouthful. I thought you had more to say.
Well, just like I was saying, you can apply that to the social media stuff. A lot of the viral videos have that first 3 to 5 seconds that really bites. It really hooks that person in, that viewer, and that person then watches over and over and over again. Just because what they said or their point they're trying to make, is engaging. And you want to be engaging in social media, on your podcast, on your YouTube video, all of that stuff. There is a flood of content out there for the average viewer or listener. It's an ocean. It's an absolute ocean of content, and you have to figure out how to set that hook, for them to reel you in with your content, to give them, to get their attention on what you're trying to say or what you're trying to do or whatever it might be.
What's your tips on promoting your podcast on social media?
I'm a strong believer on the clips. I'm a strong believer on the video clips. They're full frame. You take up that whole frame. There's captions on your videos, because something like 70% or something like that of social media viewers view social media without the sound on. So even if you have a cool song or you have a lot to say and you don't have any captions, chances are you're going to get scrolled by. I like to supplement the clips. When I make the clips, I like to supplement them with stock footage or images or graphics or any of that kind of stuff. I like to help get that point across with those tools. Now, on the flip side, you can definitely put too much into your video. If you've got all these different stacks of text all over the place, and you've got GIFs going on, and all these emojis and all this thing, and pretty soon you're like, I don't even know where to look. There's way too much going on in this. I'm going to scroll right by. So there's a balance there that you try to strike with your clips, and it's TikTok and Instagram now, you can go much longer. I think TikTok, you can go up to 10 minutes with a clip. Not many people are sitting there watching a podcast clip for 10 minutes, So I try to keep them like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, something quick, something that can just snap right by, and then they go on to the next video.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. So when you are looking for, so you mostly like are working with clients. Do you actually solicit guests to be on your podcast? Do you have a podcast that you have guests on, or are you mostly a producer for other people's podcasts on the back end?
I'm mostly all the back end stuff. I have a podcast that I've wanted to get up and going for probably 6 to 8 months now. But I'm so busy doing other people's things, and I'm meeting great friends and all that, that my podcast is kind of on the back burner.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because as I've been waiting to start mine, I've learned other things, right? So, like, I'm glad that I haven't started mine yet, because there are things that I keep learning and ideas that keep coming up that, oh yeah, I want to do that, you know? So I have the structure of it. I have some outlines. I do have some guests that have agreed to already be on. So uh, it'll happen at some point, but I'm more of the back end stuff. I like to help. I like to help people put their thing together, whether they don't have the technical knowledge or they don't have the time to do what I do. That's kind of what I do. So, and I enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy it.
It's always the shoemakers whose kids that are walking around with no shoes.
Yeah. It's the plumber's house that has the leaky pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all the same.
So you're in the Colorado area. Is that where you live?
I'm actually outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Okay.
Yep.
One of my comedians is from Minnesota, Bill Devlin. He's headlining my. I do a comedy workshop, and I have 30 students, and he's headlining the graduation show for those students.
Oh, nice.
So, very funny guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend here I went to high school with, and he's a stand-up comic now, and I try to help him with getting himself promoted and stuff like that, but he's kind of old school. He doesn't really fiddle with the technology or any of that, and come on, we're not old men here. Let's get this going,
Yeah.
So
you should have him reach out to me for my comedy workshop. It's for all, professional comedians, open micers, civilians. It's a one-day course, and I basically cram 40 years of my experience into an 8-hour workshop.
Okay,
And,
I will pass that on. Yeah, for sure.
So how do we find you on the socials?
Everything is at Ocean Tree Creative, just all one word. Twitter is Ocean Tree Create 1, because creative is too long. And then I'm Brian at oceantreecreative.com, and all the above.
Well, you guys can find me and my comedy at podbrother.com. You can find shows like this on Podbrother Nation, which, by the way, PodOwwll.com is on Podbrother Nation, where you'll find this show. And then you also can find me on Twitter as Stephen Kimbrough. And pretty much anything Podbrother on the internet is going to go straight to me. There's only one Podbrother, that's me. And everything Podbrother pretty much comes right to me. So that's how you can find me. Brian, it was so cool having you here, man. And we need to do this again.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime. I'd love to be on the show, and thank you so much for having me, and hoot hoot.
Hoot hoot, yep. I'm going to have a slice of pizza in your honor.
Attaboy. Get after it.
They're singing a birthday now. Check that out. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's an anniversary on that.
Oh.
We'll leave you on that. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
See you later.
Sounds good. Thank you much.